Okay, welcome back. We are with the light from the Leshem, lessons from the Leshem, teaching authentic Kabbalah teachings from the Torah on the topics concerning the divine workings of our reality, the writings of Rav Shlomo Eliashiv, under the auspices and guidance of Rav Yeshua Gerzi, the rabbi of the Beis Midrash of Beis David Pilsno in Beit Shemesh. And we are continuing with the whole discussion of why Hashem decided to create the world. And this is the second of the article in the series. It's called Article 3 because the Article 2 hasn't been translated yet. And the answer in this topic is basically that God desires to be manifest and become revealed to his creation. Now we're going ahead and read the article, and at the end there'll be questions. And here we go. This is also to know, this is from the Book of Knowledge, or Dea. That's the name of the book that it's from, translation is from. Introduction. This article is from a series of articles that explain why God decided to create all of existence. Comprehending the Creator's intended purpose and awaited outcome for desiring, designing, and implementing all existence, not surprisingly, has many aspects. This particular article discusses the purpose for creation from the aspect of God having the desire to become manifest and revealed outside his own personal essence. That's the introduction. Now we'll get to the actual Leshem himself. The Creator desires to enable manifestation and become revealed to his creations. Know that the foundation and root of all existence is because the Ein Sof, Baruch Hu. Okay, so Ein Sof is something that's a big, gigantic topic to discuss what this means. For the purposes, our purposes now, it's basically a name for God, and he will explain partially what that's about in the continuation of this article. So again, know that the foundation and root of all existence is because the Ein Sof may be blessed. This is a little a long footnote of why I did that, but that's more for the technical side. We're trying to get the general idea here. Basically, Hashem is blessed beyond all possibilities, and we want to always say that when we say his name. So again, know that the foundation and root of all existence is because the Ein Sof, whose true essence is completely impossible to grasp in any manner of comprehension, wanted to be revealed through some manner of manifestation. You have this essence that is completely beyond our comprehension in any way, and it has to manifest in some way in order for us to have any relationship. This manifestation is via all the worlds of the Ein Sof and Atzilut. And again, this is to get into more the technical side of it, is that the Ein Sof and Atzilut and all this are ways that Hashem is slowly manifested until there's a place where reality is created and we're able to have a relationship with him. He then wanted to inaugurate a new reality which refers to the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. So Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah are worlds of separation that actually have a separate existence from God. And the worlds of Ein Sof and Atzilut, among others, this is the only ones he mentions here, are worlds that are basically an extension, so to say, of Hashem. So in order to provide them with endless abundance, that is to say, enable them to enjoy the splendor of his oneness. The idea is to be able to be separate from God in order to have a relation with him and reattach and be in awareness of him, which is the essence of abundance itself. Furthermore, he brought them into existence for this purpose, to unite and receive the joy from his oneness via their own striving. Any questions up till here?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Everyone is really the closest to his own essence. And this is a very interesting point now the lesson is going to make, which explains basically a sort of a simple nature of all human beings. For it is built into everyone's nature to cherish and enjoy what belongs to oneself with oneself. For what belongs to one's own self is more precious to him, because everyone is really closest to their own essence. In other words, why do people like their house, their wife, their kids, their stuff, their job, or like or whatever, or feel the most comfortable with that? Because it's the closest thing that they have to their own essence, is to be in a relationship with that. Now, continuing in the text, now the only actual reason that everyone is drawn towards their own essence is because the capacity for unity that is imprinted upon creation. What does this mean? Therefore, it would not be possible to come to enjoy the pleasure of the sensation of complete oneness without it coming from one's own capacity to move towards and draw close from within oneself to further within oneself until one reaches the root of innermost point with one's own self. This innermost point is the Malchut of Atzilut. That's a technical thing that maybe we'll get into in a moment, but let's first understand the general idea here, which is that everybody has a capacity to feel a complete sense of oneness. Further, beyond this, the experience of sensation of complete oneness comes from above and beyond all until one experiences the simple essence with the singular oneness of God, comprehended, know this well. So what he's saying here, he expands on this more in other places, which is that a person, I think it was discussed in the previous article too, a person feels oneness the most when he's connected to his own stuff. It's not possible for a human being to connect to the oneness of everything in a realistic sense, because it's just beyond us. Like, the galaxies and universes, all, how are we in oneness with all that? So we have the sense of oneness if we're connected with our families and connected with the stuff we have. It gives us a sense of completion and wholeness. And from that completion and wholeness, we can then extrapolate to the completion and wholeness of being connected to Hashem in its entirety. So far, so good? Any questions on this?
Yeah, I guess what comes up is the Leshem trying to, like, what is the Leshem trying to do right now with this? Meaning, by telling us that we're intuitively, so to speak, drawn towards our own unified, core.
So it's a segue for these 5 points relating to the expression of God, which we're going to discuss in the next session. What's the first? Explain the motivation. So the motivation is that everybody, because God is oneness, and he created all these beings that are all these separate beings, but all the separate beings, we basically have a desire to return to this primordial state of oneness because we, in a sense, are from that oneness. So the way we experience that is to be in some sort of state of completion relatively with the stuff we have. And that's also has to connected with the innermost point of the essence of a person is connected to what's known as the Malchut of Atzilut. And that's a big topic. I see I wrote a big long footnote here. I'll read the footnote. What the heck? The world of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah are worlds of separation. So the closest a separate being can get to unity is to be in open awareness of the lowest aspect of the world of Atzilut. In other words, Atzilut is still in unity with God. It's an extension of God's unity. And then the worlds of separation start in Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. So in being in awareness of the Malchut of Atzilut, the person that's the closest a separate being could be to being in a state of unity. In other words, the world of divine emanation and the world that is in unity with God, the world of Atzilut, becomes aware. You become aware of that. This is the lowest aspect of any world, is its Malchut. Thus the Rav explains that the most inner point within the created being is his connection to the Malchut of Atzilut. And on a technical level, from what I recall, basically only Moshe Rabbeinu reached that point of awakening awareness where he was in the state of awareness of the Malchut of Atzilut. But as we know, the Leshem, one of his big points is to know something is, in a sense, to be in connection. So the fact that we are aware that the ultimate goal, so to say, is to be in a state of awareness of the Malchut of Atzilut enables us to reach a higher level of awareness, even if we're not experiencing it, but we just understand it.
Amazing, thank you.
So far, so good? Okay, continuing on. 5 points relating to the expression of God. So now is where he's now gonna that was a segue for this is the main essence of what he's trying to say here. The 5 point, thus we have 5 distinctions that we can comprehend from God. And here he writes in a very, very style that's very, very unambiguous, because we're now saying we're kiviyachol dividing up God into different aspects, which is problematic. Still with me? Yeah, okay. So, but that's the way to do it. That's the way human beings can understand this. You have to divide it into some sort of logical framework in order to comprehend it. But obviously God is complete unity. So the fact that it looks like aspects to us is in order for us to be able to understand what's going on. And by understanding what's going on, that's how we connect to God. So there's no other possibility. So number 1 is that he as essence itself is completely negated and beyond any manifestation or will to be manifested. This should be familiar from before, right? His essence is completely incomprehensible and completely beyond manifestation. The will aspect then desires to become manifested, is the root of all manifestation and revelation, and becomes known as the worlds of Ein Sof. So Ein Sof, we said we were going to get into a definition later on in this article, and here it is. Ein Sof is the beginning of God's will. And this is also, the Ramchal also talks about this. Want to understand what Ein Sof refers to? It refers to God's will to be manifested. Number 2, God's essential manifestation itself that was revealed in order to cause all creation to come into being and afterwards to guide everything is called the worlds of Atzilut. So Ein Sof is the will to manifestation, and then Atzilut is actually the beginning of manifestation. There in Atzilut, he is still him alone, himself, without any other. For it is written, before the world was created, only he and his name were in existence. So Atzilut is now a manifestation of his will, but it's still him. Just like a person has will, it has a will to do whatever he does, but it's still part of him. A person and his will are basically still the same thing. It's just a way to start explaining how things unfold. And then you get to the worlds of separate beings that have caused to come into existence, are known as the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. Now we actually have worlds of separation where there's actually separate things that exist that are not God. 4, the manner by which the goal of creation, which is mentioned in point 5 below, that we'll get to in a minute, but he writes it in this way because this is the way it works chronologically. The manner by which the goal of creation is reached is via learning Torah and performing mitzvot. Surprise. And all via the events that have continued to happen and unfold to us and our forefathers. So all the experience of reality, good, bad, and ugly, and all the learning in Torah and mitzvot and punishments and all this stuff, everything that basically happens in the realm of reality, that is the goal of creation. Finally, and the final goal then, and the initial intention of creation is for created beings, pay very careful attention here, to take pleasure in the sparks of his oneness. This is the ultimate reason for creation. And this actually comes about precisely because our actions, as mentioned in point 4, because of our actions, the goal is reached. So the point of being in this world and having a relationship with God through learning Torah and performing mitzvot is the goal of creation, and it results in us having relations with him, so we experience his oneness. This last distinction is actually the final result. For when all arrives back to where the principle of oneness is revealed in its essence, is returning to the light of Ein Sof, and all is returned to this initial reason from where they came into being, into existence. Any questions?
No, I think I understand. Thank you.
It's something that you have to contemplate for a while, and it's a Ratzu Vashov kind of thing. It runs and returns. Like, you get it and you don't get it because it's a very, very deep point, but it's the essential deep point, basically, of what the whole point is. Okay, so now he's going to finally sum up by explaining the principle that's behind this, and hopefully we'll wrap up and make it come into more focus, which is that the end is embedded in the beginning, and the beginning is embedded in the end. That the beginning and the end result are basically connected. And that's also, so let's stay away from the Kabbalistic language. There's ways to say it Kabbalistically, but this is what he's saying. This can be summarized in the principle. Read it again. The end is embedded in the beginning, and the beginning in the end. For all of reality has come out of the Ein Sof and will ultimately return to the Ein Sof. For the Ein Sof, blessed be He, is the first cause of all manifestation. He is the cause of all causes, and He is the end result of all end results that has no end. Yet the truth is that we have no comprehension at all for the true reasons for the first cause. That if you want to go even one step further beyond that, that's already something that's beyond our capability to understand. Or the final result. We don't really get the first cause of the final result. We can only understand the process, which is that He wants a relationship with us, and by giving us the possibility of having this relationship, by giving us stuff to do, we're able to have a relationship with Him and enjoy the experience and joy of oneness, of being connected with Him. For what can we really comprehend about the Ein Sof, right? So we have included these 2 points, 1 and 5, right? This is referring to his map from the previous section, where he says that the beginning is that the Ein Sof manifests, and the end is that everything returns to being connected to the Ein Sof. So in the 5 distinctions, only because the 3 middle points extend out of them. In other words, we understand the extension of what happens, but we don't understand the roots. And that's always the case. The root is something that's always hidden. We can see the branches, we can see the trees, we can relate to them, but the roots are always hidden. This is to say the point that point 2 is the world of Atzilut and its manifestations, and point 3 corresponds to the actions of Atzilut in the world of separation, Bria Yetzirah and Asiyah. And the reason that brings about the end results of his original intention, that is learning Torah and performing mitzvot, and via his continued orchestration of all that is happening in the world that corresponds to point 4. Okay, in summary, that is, you really have to look at the article yourself and look back and see which each point is. It makes sense when you look at it that way. In summary, we have included mentioning the first and final points because the middle 3 come into being and are constantly guided via the primal reason and final intention. For the middle 3 always come from the primal cause and return to the final result. His simple oneness is never lacking for them. Not only that, at the present time, oneness is hidden from them. Thus, in the actuality, we can really only discuss and comprehend the middle 3 points. So basically, he's also giving us the limitation of human knowledge. What can we really comprehend? We can comprehend that there's this ultimate oneness that we want to connect to, and that we eventually will return to this ultimate oneness, and the way to connect to Him in the meantime is through doing actions that connect us to Him and trying to avoid actions that cause displeasure. And but the actual essence is something that's beyond our comprehension.
Amazing.
Okay, any questions?
No, I think it's I find it's very profound. It's very profound.
Yeah, it pretty much stands on its own. It's pretty deep stuff, but okay, now I just have to figure out, forgot how you turn this off. Once we get back to the Zoom, I go over here maybe. Stop share screen, say goodbye, and we'll continue talking on Zoom, but I'm just gonna close this meeting